it important to address and navigate cultural differences within global teams?
Navigating cultural differences is crucial in global teams because it ensures effective communication, collaboration, and productivity. Understanding and respecting cultural nuances can prevent misunderstandings and conflicts.
What are some common challenges that global teams face when dealing with cultural differences, and how can they overcome them?
Common challenges include language barriers, differing communication styles, and varying work norms. Global teams can overcome these by providing cultural sensitivity training, promoting open communication, and establishing clear guidelines for working together.
Can you share some best practices for global teams to foster effective collaboration and inclusivity while respecting cultural differences?
Certainly. Best practices include actively seeking diverse perspectives, encouraging open dialogue about cultural differences, using technology to bridge geographical gaps, and promoting a culture of respect and inclusivity.
How can team leaders and managers play a pivotal role in facilitating understanding and collaboration within culturally diverse global teams?
Leaders can lead by example, promote cultural intelligence, provide training, and create opportunities for team members to learn about each other's cultures. They should also be sensitive to the challenges team members might face and address them promptly.
Can you provide an example of a global team that successfully navigated cultural differences and achieved remarkable results?
Airbus is a great example. They have a diverse global team responsible for manufacturing aircraft components. By embracing cultural diversity and implementing effective communication strategies, they have achieved significant success in the aviation industry.
What are some common challenges faced by open source software communities when it comes to inclusivity, and how can they address them effectively?
Inclusivity challenges in open source communities often revolve around issues like diversity, accessibility, and a lack of clear guidelines for respectful interaction. To address these, communities should implement clear codes of conduct, promote diversity in leadership roles, and provide resources for contributors to learn about inclusivity and accessibility standards.
Can you share examples of successful inclusivity initiatives within open source software communities, and how did they make a difference?
Certainly. Initiatives like outreach programs for underrepresented groups, mentorship programs, and hackathons with inclusive themes have been successful. They foster a welcoming environment, encourage diverse contributions, and help build a sense of belonging among community members.
How can open source communities ensure that their development and decision-making processes are inclusive and transparent?
Transparency is crucial. Communities can use public communication channels, open meetings, and accessible documentation to involve contributors in decision-making. Additionally, ensuring diverse representation on governing bodies and decision-making committees helps avoid bias and promotes inclusivity.
What steps can individuals take to contribute to inclusivity in open source software communities, even if they're not part of the core development team?
Everyone can play a role. Providing constructive feedback on accessibility issues, advocating for inclusive practices, and supporting initiatives to diversify the community are valuable contributions. Additionally, educating oneself about inclusivity and encouraging respectful behavior can create a more inclusive environment.
Are there any tools or resources that open source communities can leverage to improve inclusivity in their projects?
Absolutely. Communities can use tools for automated accessibility testing, collaborate with organizations focused on inclusivity in tech, and offer training programs on unconscious bias and inclusivity. Building a knowledge base and sharing best practices can also be beneficial. Why is using inclusive language and communication essential in the tech industry? Using inclusive language and communication is crucial in the tech industry because it promotes diversity, avoids unintentional exclusion, and fosters a more inclusive and respectful environment where all team members can thrive. What are some common examples of exclusive language or communication practices that can occur in the tech field? Common examples include using gendered language in job descriptions, making assumptions about someone's technical skills based on their background, or using jargon that not everyone may understand.
How can individuals in the tech industry actively incorporate inclusive language and communication into their interactions?
Individuals can start by being mindful of their language, avoiding stereotypes, and using gender-neutral terms. They should also actively listen, respect diverse viewpoints, and create an environment where everyone feels valued.
Can you share some strategies that tech companies can adopt to promote inclusive language and communication within their teams?
Certainly. Tech companies can provide training on inclusive communication, establish guidelines for language use, and encourage feedback from team members. They should also lead by example and prioritize diversity and inclusion in their culture.
Can you provide an example of a tech company that successfully incorporated inclusive language and communication practices and saw positive outcomes?
Adobe is a great example. They introduced the Adobe for All initiative, which included guidelines for using inclusive language in their products and communications. This initiative has helped create a more inclusive brand and user experience. Why is it important for organizations to promote inclusivity within their code of conduct policies?
Promoting inclusivity within code of conduct policies is crucial because it sets the tone for the organization's commitment to a respectful and equitable workplace. It provides clear guidelines on expected behavior, ensuring that all employees feel valued and respected.
What are some common elements that organizations can include in their code of conduct policies to promote inclusivity?
Common elements include anti-discrimination clauses, guidelines on respectful communication, accommodations for diverse needs, and reporting mechanisms for incidents of bias or discrimination.
How can organizations ensure that their code of conduct policies are effectively communicated and embraced throughout the organization?
Organizations can ensure effective communication by providing training on the code of conduct, making the policies easily accessible, and encouraging open discussions about them. Leadership should lead by example in upholding the code.
Can you share some strategies for organizations to create code of conduct policies that truly foster inclusivity?
Certainly. Strategies include involving employees in the policy development process, conducting regular reviews and updates, seeking external input, and setting clear consequences for violations.
Can you provide an example of an organization that successfully promoted inclusivity through their code of conduct policies and saw positive results?
Salesforce is a notable example. They have a comprehensive code of conduct and have made significant progress in creating a more inclusive workplace, including addressing pay equity issues and promoting diversity and inclusion.
Why is it important for tech teams to address gender diversity?
Addressing gender diversity in tech teams is vital because it leads to better innovation, creativity, and problem solving. A diverse team brings varied perspectives and experiences, which are essential in the rapidly evolving tech landscape.
What are some common challenges that tech teams face when it comes to gender diversity, and how can they overcome them?
Common challenges include gender bias in hiring and promotions, lack of female role models, and a male-dominated culture. Teams can overcome these by implementing diversity-friendly hiring practices, mentoring and sponsorship programs, and fostering a culture of inclusion.
Can you share some best practices for tech teams to actively promote and improve gender diversity?
Certainly. Best practices include setting clear diversity goals, conducting gender-biased training, offering flexible work arrangements, and actively promoting female leadership within the organization.
How can male allies play a role in advocating for gender diversity in tech teams?
Male allies can actively support and mentor female colleagues, challenge gender bias when they witness it, and use their influence to advocate for gender diversity initiatives within the team and the organization.
Can you provide an example of a tech company that successfully addressed gender diversity and achieved positive results?
Microsoft is a great example. They set ambitious gender diversity goals and introduced programs like G-Girls to encourage young girls to pursue careers in technology. These efforts have led to increased representation of women in their workforce.
Why is building cultural competency essential in multinational teams?
Building cultural competency is crucial in multinational teams because it enables team members to understand, respect, and effectively collaborate with individuals from diverse cultural backgrounds. It promotes harmonious teamwork and successful global operations.
What are some common challenges that multinational teams face when it comes to cultural differences, and how can they overcome them?
Challenges include miscommunication, misunderstandings, and cultural clashes. Teams can overcome these by investing in cultural competency training, promoting cross-cultural awareness, and fostering a culture of respect and curiosity about different cultures.
Can you share some strategies for individuals who want to enhance their cultural competency in a multinational team?
Certainly. Strategies include learning about other cultures, actively seeking diverse perspectives, being open-minded, and practicing empathy. Building relationships and asking questions to understand cultural nuances are also effective approaches.
How can team leaders and managers play a role in fostering cultural competency within their multinational teams?
Leaders can set the tone by promoting cultural competency, providing training, and creating opportunities for cross-cultural collaboration. They should also address any instances of cultural insensitivity promptly.
Can you provide an example of a multinational team that successfully built cultural competency and achieved positive outcomes?
The multinational team at Toyota is a great example. They prioritize cultural competency and cultural exchange programs, which have led to better collaboration and innovation in their global operations.
Why is it important for UX or UI designers to focus on fostering inclusive design principles?
Fostering inclusive design in UX or UI is essential because it ensures that products and interfaces are accessible and usable by everyone, regardless of their abilities, backgrounds, or needs. It promotes a more equitable and user-friendly digital world.
What are some common challenges that UX or UI designers face when striving to incorporate inclusive design practices, and how can they overcome them?
Challenges include limited awareness of accessibility guidelines, biases in design decisions, and tight project timelines. Designers can overcome these by staying informed about accessibility standards, seeking diverse perspectives, and integrating inclusive design from the start of the design process.
Can you share some best practices for UX or UI designers to actively promote and implement inclusive design in their projects?
Certainly. Best practices include conducting user testing with diverse participants, adhering to accessibility guidelines like CAG, using inclusive language and imagery, and continuously educating oneself about accessibility advancements.
How can organizations foster a culture of inclusive design within their UX or UI teams?
Organizations can foster such a culture by providing accessibility training, incorporating inclusive design principles into design processes, and celebrating successful examples of inclusive design within the company.
Can you provide an example of a company that successfully fostered inclusive design in UX or UI and saw positive outcomes?
Apple is an excellent example. They prioritize inclusive design by considering accessibility features in all their products, resulting in a more inclusive user experience and a broader customer base.
Why is it crucial for web developers to prioritize inclusivity and accessibility in their work?
Prioritizing inclusivity and accessibility in web development is essential because it ensures that websites and digital content are usable by everyone, including those with disabilities. It promotes equal access to information and services.
What are some common challenges that web developers face when trying to make their websites inclusive and accessible, and how can they overcome them?
Common challenges include lack of awareness, tight project timelines, and limited resources. Developers can overcome these by educating themselves about accessibility guidelines, integrating accessibility testing into their workflow, and advocating for accessibility from the project's outset.
Can you share some best practices that web developers can adopt to create inclusive and accessible websites?
Certainly. Best practices include adhering to Web Content Accessibility Guidelines (CAG), providing alternative text for images, ensuring keyboard navigation, and conducting usability testing with individuals with disabilities.
How can organizations promote a culture of inclusivity and accessibility in their web development teams?
Organizations can promote such a culture by providing accessibility training, establishing accessibility standards, involving individuals with disabilities in the testing process, and recognizing and celebrating accessibility achievements.
Can you provide an example of a company that successfully prioritized inclusivity and accessibility in web development and saw positive outcomes?
The BBC is an excellent example. They have made significant strides in making their digital content accessible, resulting in a more inclusive online experience and recognition for their commitment to accessibility.
Why is it important for organizations to focus on building inclusive code of conduct policies?
Building inclusive code of conduct policies is essential because it sets clear expectations for behavior, fosters a respectful and equitable work environment, and ensures that all employees feel safe and valued.
What are some common elements that organizations should consider including in their code of conduct policies to make them more inclusive?
Common elements include anti-discrimination and anti-harassment clauses, guidelines on respectful communication, accommodations for diverse needs, and reporting mechanisms for incidents of bias or discrimination.
How can organizations ensure that their code of conduct policies are effectively communicated and embraced throughout the organization?
Organizations can ensure effective communication by providing training on the code of conduct, making the policies easily accessible, and encouraging open discussions about them. Leadership should lead by example in upholding the code.
Can you share some strategies for organizations to create code of conduct policies that truly foster inclusivity?
Certainly. Strategies include involving employees in the policy development process, conducting regular reviews and updates, seeking external input, and setting clear consequences for violations. It's also important to provide multiple avenues for reporting incidents.
Can you provide an example of an organization that successfully built inclusive code of conduct policies and saw positive results?
Salesforce is a notable example. They have a comprehensive code of conduct and have made significant progress in creating a more inclusive workplace, including addressing pay equity issues and promoting diversity and inclusion. Why is it important for tech communities to focus on fostering gender inclusivity?
Fostering gender inclusivity in tech communities is essential because it creates a more diverse, innovative, and equitable tech industry. It ensures that all voices are heard and that opportunities are accessible to everyone, regardless of their gender.
What are some common challenges that tech communities face when striving to become more gender inclusive, and how can they overcome them?
Common challenges include gender bias, a lack of female representation, and a sometimes unwelcoming culture. Communities can overcome these by actively recruiting and mentoring women, promoting diverse leadership, and implementing policies against discrimination.
Can you share some best practices for tech communities to actively promote and improve gender inclusivity?
Certainly. Best practices include setting diversity goals, providing training on unconscious bias, creating mentorship and sponsorship programs for women, and actively celebrating the achievements of female members.
How can male members of tech communities play a role in advocating for gender inclusivity and equality?
Male members can be allies by actively supporting and amplifying the voices of their female colleagues, challenging gender bias when they encounter it, and advocating for gender-inclusive policies and initiatives within the community.
Can you provide an example of a tech community that successfully fostered gender inclusivity and achieved positive results?
Women Who Code is a great example. They've built a global community that supports and empowers women in tech, resulting in increased gender diversity and opportunities for women in the industry.
Hello viewers. If you enjoyed this video, please show your appreciation by hitting the like button. Your likes encourage me to create more content that you'll love. I truly value your thoughts and feedback, so please take a moment to share your valuable comments in the comments section below. Your comments help me improve and shape the future videos on this channel. To stay updated with more exciting videos and to support my channel, please consider subscribing. Don't forget to share this video with your friends, so they can join our wonderful community too. I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for spending your valuable time watching this video. Your support means the world to me. Thank you, and I look forward to bringing you more fantastic content in the future.